Hey, Coach, good to see you.
Great to see you, Julian.
Yeah, I've been trying to get you on here all summer long, but I know you've been really busy.
Yeah, a little busy with the transition from Winchester, West Virginia, and down Edenton, North Carolina.
Yeah, not too far from Ag State, I guess. So I was thinking about your career. You've done a lot in basketball. You were a starter and a key player on a George Mason team, Division I program. You've been a successful coach. You took a team to a state tournament, at least one team to a state tournament, maybe even two. You coached at your alma mater. You were in administration in 3 different states. I think your crowning achievement has got to be you married my lovely classmate, Holly Shaner, a beautiful girl, beautiful woman, and you've raised 2 wonderful kids. Your daughter, Haley, I believe, right?
Bailey.
Bailey, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Bailey played basketball for Christopher Newport, I believe. And your son was, at least for a while, he was on Broadway, tried out for plays, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Holly's a saint, that's for sure. You know, a coach's wife is not easy.
Yeah.
A lot of sacrifices, and never home. And then getting into administration, things didn't change much. So
exactly.
Holly's been great.
One day she'll be fussing at you because you're home too much.
No, actually, I kind of took off 2 months since we made the move. June and July, I just totally took off, didn't look for any work at all, and did a lot of stuff around the house. And I think she got spoiled because now she wants me to stay home.
Oh, she got a list for you to do?
Oh yeah, that list is way overdue.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have not talked to many Prince William ball players yet, and I've always been kind of interested, especially when you grew up, because it was much more rural than it is now. I mean, if you play basketball in Prince William now, it's not that much different from playing in Fairfax County because the area is so built up. But I assume you were probably raised in the Manassas area?
I moved when I was 14, going into my sophomore year. We moved from Louisiana, and actually football was my sport. I played freshman football down in Louisiana, which is big down there, and then I played basketball. I went from 6 to 6'4", just from football season to basketball season, and I was a left-handed quarterback. And after my freshman season was over, they moved me up to JV. Then I got to dress for the varsity, and with spring ball down south, the varsity football coach asked me to come out for spring ball. So I was really, football was my love until I kept on growing to be 6'8". But when I transitioned from Louisiana to Virginia, no high school kid wants to transfer, especially out of state. So I was that kid that it was all about me. I hated my life moving like that. And not one football coach from Osbourn High School in Manassas said a word to me. And I wasn't the type of kid at that time that would go up to you and ask you if you were the football coach. I never played football again. My social studies teacher, Coach Barry Sudduth, was my basketball coach. And I was ticked off at him because he didn't believe in putting sophomores on varsity. And I wanted to play varsity ball so bad. And I had to stay on the JV team, and I wasn't happy about that. But Coach Sudduth was like a second father to me throughout the years.
It is kind of rare. I mean, not too many Division I players play JV as a sophomore. I mean, it happens, especially with kids that grow late. Kind of like, I guess you grew kind of late. But it sounds like it was more of a policy decision rather than whether you could play there or not.
Yeah, the varsity team was pretty decent, but I thought I could play with them. A lot of times in practice, the JV team would hang with the varsity in scrimmage games. I think it really, I took that anger and made me more, hungry. I was hungry to get after it and prove myself, and show them that I belong in the varsity level. So I think I had a really strong junior year. I averaged a double-double my junior year. I think I had 10 rebounds and 11, 12 points a game as a junior. So going from JV to varsity like that, you don't see that big jump as much.
So remind me, Osbourn is the city of Manassas. That's where the kids come from. And so So the reason why you were AA and Osbourn Park was AAA is you could only grow so much because you only had the kids inside the city.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys would play at the time. You guys would play Parkview and Loudon, probably Loudon Valley. Who else? Who would you guys play?
Parkview, Loudon Valley, Loudon County, Broad Run was in our league. Warren County, Handley High School.
Mhm.
We had a heck of a district. We always played Osbourn Park and Stonewall Jackson right there in Manassas area. So that was always big, a AA playing a AAA back then. And, we beat them sometimes and, had some great games, great rivalry right there within the Prince William area.
What kind of coach was Coach Sudduth? What did you learn from him that you would use in the future when you're as a coach yourself?
He was more of a teacher off the court than on the court, I believe. He was set in his ways, laid back in some ways, but hard-nosed in a lot of ways. We had that father-son relationship. He would get on me when other people weren't performing. And great story. I committed to George Mason early my senior year. And no, I'm sorry, it was before my commitment. And there was 3 D1 coaches in the bleachers watching practice. We were scrimmaging back and forth, and we stole the ball right at half court. And I had a breakaway, and my teammate had the ball right at midcourt, and I was running the wing, no one between me and the basket. And I was just thinking about which way I'm going to dunk this one in front of the college coaches, right? Well, I kept on running, and my teammate kept on dribbling, never passed me the ball. So I got to the block. He pulled up from the top of the key area and took a shot, hit the rim, and the rebound went right in front of me. And I just stood there. I didn't even jump. I just stood there and watched it go out of bounds. Coach blows the whistle, and I'm like, yeah, he's going to get on him for not passing me the ball. He got on me. Julian ripped me for not trying to get the rebound. And I said, Coach, I'm wide open. So we got into it a little bit, and he kicks me out of practice. I looked at him like, you got to be kidding me. He goes, get out, go to the locker room. So I walk in the locker room, and I'm waiting a couple minutes. I know Coach Sudduth's coming to get me, and bring me back out to practice. I waited and waited. Then he finally came in. And he taught me a valuable lesson. He said, Mike, he goes, these college coaches are here to watch you, nobody else. Your teammates don't have the future that you have. And they're trying to make a name for themselves. And he goes, you're good enough to make up for their mistakes. Yes, he should have passed you the ball, no doubt. But he didn't. He made a mistake. But you're good enough to make up for his mistake by getting that rebound and putting it back in. At the moment, I didn't want to hear that. How can you ruin my career? Coaches are here to watch me play. And then it made me realize, you know what? You're right. I need to do those little things besides scoring, on the floor. And that it taught me a lot. And once I went to Mason, my freshman year, like any athlete, you want to play, you want to start. And even when you start, it's not good enough. You want every minute. So early in my freshman year, I went back to Osbourn about 3 different times and met with Coach about transferring. I wasn't happy. He goes, Mike, you're playing. You're the first guy off the bench. You started 3 games. What else do you want? I said, Coach, I'm not playing enough. I want more minutes. He said, Mike, he goes, college is a 4-year journey. It's not like high school. He goes, you got to build that up to your sophomore year, your junior year, and so forth. He said, besides, if you transfer, you got to sit out. And does your mom, being a single mom, have the money to pay for school? Made sense. And I just went back and just kept on working hard and trying to prove myself. But that was Coach Sudduth, He didn't teach me a lot of X's and O's, but he taught me a lot about being a good person, good character.
Right. So you were saying that he thought your your teammates didn't have a lot of long-term potential. How good were your teammates? Any of them play at the next level at all, like even Division III?
Yeah, my junior and senior year on the varsity team, I think we went back to back 17-4 or 18-4. Demetrius Winston was a 6'4", incredible wing player. His long arms, he was his length were probably about a 6'10", 7-footer. Good shooter, good ball handler. He went to Ferrum and had a real good career at Ferrum. But mostly a lot of small schools, D3. I was the first Division I scholarship athlete to ever come out of Osbourn High School.
Is that right?
Yep.
Wow, it's hard to believe. So Billy Fields had gone to Osbourne Park. Is that right?
Yes, he was at Osbourn Park. I heard stories about Billy when I first came to Virginia, and we used to meet up at Ben Lomond Park. There was a big park that everybody showed up at in the afternoons, and that's the first time I met him. Of course, Billy comes in. I hear all this stuff about what a great player he is. Got the Providence College jersey on, and funny thing is, Billy and I never played on the same pickup team. We always played against each other because you showed up with your 5,
yeah, and
you played ball, and if you lost, you pick up your bag and go home because you're not getting back on the court. But Billy, then later on, after I came back to Manassas coaching, Billy and I played on the same men's league for several years and just had a blast, because we knew the game so well and had fun.
So that's where you played most of your pickup, Ben Lomond?
Ben Lomond, Bird Park, Baldwin Park was kind of 3 local parks in the area. Didn't have all these open gyms. Pat Brizzi used to open up Stonewall Jackson High School a lot, and we used to go play some games there. But it was nothing like the ballpark outside on the blacktop, having to play. Sometimes you had a net, sometimes you had a chain. Sometimes you didn't have anything. You had to deal with the wind, but it's just everybody came to watch you. It was a great environment.
Did Coach Sudduth put you in summer leagues? You guys like in DC or Fairfax County summer leagues?
We didn't have much of that growing up. We didn't, AAU wasn't big back then. We didn't have any kind of fall summer league at all. It was just mainly just pick up games at the parks.
Yeah. So how well did you know Billy King and David Robinson? I assume you played against them at least a couple times, right?
Well, Julian, back in the district, old Northwestern district, at one time in our league, myself, Billy King, David Robinson, and Dennis Scott, all at one time. And Dennis Scott was a freshman at Loudoun County at the time. His nickname was Foots because he had a big foot, and he played center at Loudoun County. And then a couple of years later, when I go to Mason, then I see him working out at Mason at Flint Hill, with Flint Hill being a point guard. So Coach Vetter did a great job transitioning him to being a ball handler. Billy King, he's just a great athlete, great player, fun to watch, great to play against, good person. And then a lot of people don't know about David Robinson. David Robinson transferred his senior year to Osbourn Park.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He came from Virginia Beach. He was a military, kid, and he moved to Osbourn Park his senior year. We were both seniors together, and he was a big baseball player. Basketball wasn't his thing. And Coach asked him to come out for the team, and David was 6'6" at the time. Skinny, good rebounder, good defender, couldn't score much in high school. He was a, average scorer. And then of course, goes to Naval Academy and just kept on growing. But our league was just so tough. You beat everybody else, but when you played against Parkview, you played against Osbourn Park, Loudoun County, you'd be lucky to split with them. And every time, I think my junior year, we had a 3-way tie for first. Loudoun Valley had Andy Amber. So I think he won. He was like 6'8" he was like 6'4", 6'5", good athlete. I think he won the 100-yard dash in the state. Great football player. But all three of us, Valley, us, and Parkview, were tied for first. And back then, they drew straws to see who gets the bye, and the other two teams played it off. And the winner of that game moved on to the next night to play whoever got the bye, and then we always got the short end of the stick. We never made it out of district my 2 years in high school.
Coach, so you think your development would have been any different if you were raised in Fairfax County, where there's more concentration of kids, and you would have played downtown some like we did? All the kids in Fairfax County, we played some in DC, like summer leagues and stuff. But I mean, you end up being a Division I player. You played at a high level. Do you think? And so did David Robinson, so did Dennis Scott, so did Billy King. Do you think your development would have been any different if you lived like in Fairfax or Falls Church or anything?
It's easy to say yes, because of the competition and the opportunities, the more opportunities in the Fairfax area. But then again, looking back on my career, I don't know if I would change anything. Being knocked down my sophomore year by not playing varsity, made me mad, made me hungry. Playing against players like David Robinson, Dennis Scott, Billy King, going to Ben Lomond, playing against people like Billy Fields. I think I had pretty good competition night in and night out. It just made you work for it, because I wasn't thinking about doing anything besides going to college and playing ball. And I didn't care my junior year. I didn't care what level. When I got my first D3 letter, I was excited that somebody wanted me to play for. And then once those letters started to go into D1 area, then I realized I could really do this, and my mom didn't have to pay for school, because if I had to pay for college, I probably wouldn't have gone to college, to be honest with you, because my mom's single mom raising 6 kids. It wasn't going in that direction.
Right. Why did you decide on George Mason? You committed pretty early. Did you have other options? And it sounds like your mom, having a single mom with lots of other kids, maybe you wanted to stay close to home as well.
Be honest with you, when George Mason started to recruit me, I had no idea where George Mason was even located. At George Mason, James Madison, and Richmond were probably the main 3 that were recruiting me. Lou Campanelli at Madison, Dick Tarrant at Richmond, and then Joe Harrington at Mason. But the way my recruiting went with George Mason came in to see my teammate Demetrius play, actually, because Demetrius was a good scorer, good player. And I don't know if you remember Jerry Dunn. Jerry Dunn was an assistant coach and went to Penn State as the head coach. Jerry Dunn was the assistant coach. And after watching workouts one day, he came up and introduced himself to me and told me who he was and George Mason. He goes, "We're going to be back to see you." So he got my contact information. Well, about a week later, we have an open gym pickup game. And this little short young gentleman in a coat and tie was sitting in the bleachers. So we're playing pickup ball, and I had no idea. I thought it was somebody's father. We're playing, our team wins. We'll get the water break to get ready for the next game, and this guy came up to me. Didn't introduce himself at all. He grabbed me by my arm, Julian. He said, "Mike Dufrene, full ride, George Mason University, right now, yes or no, you want it?" And I looked at him, I started laughing, because I had no idea who this character was. It's Coach Rick Barnes. Barnes offered me a scholarship on the spot, and I thought it was a joke. I thought he was just goofing off with me. And then once I committed, I asked Coach Barnes, I said, "Coach, I said, why would you offer me a full scholarship, seeing me one time in a pickup game?" He said, "Mike, if you play that hard in a pickup game, I have no worries about you come game time." And I went ahead and I went to a couple Mason games, and it was down to Richmond and Mason at the time, my last 2 choices. And when I went to watch George Mason play, right away I knew I could play there. And that was important to me. I didn't want to go through a red shirt. I didn't want to, sit on the bench. I wanted to play. So after watching, I knew I could play there. And also they made me feel like family. Every time I came, they just made me feel like family. Even after I committed early to George Mason, Coach Barnes and his wife kept on coming to my high school games. And after I would shake hands with the opponent, him and his wife would be at the corner on the baseline waiting for me to walk off the floor and just say, hi, great game. See you next game. And that was special. I knew I made a good decision about that because I knew I had people who cared about me more than just a basketball player.
Now, I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, but were you surprised at all in Rick Barnes' success by the way he treated you? I mean, obviously he had a charisma and he went after what he wanted. And so it sounds like to me that you probably knew that was coming, or you probably had a sense it was coming.
From day one, I knew he was special. He is the mastermind when it comes to mental toughness, head games. I never knew what mental toughness was until my freshman year in college. We were playing one game against this All-American, and he was crushing us at halftime. And in the locker room, Barnes gives us the riot act and just goes off on us. And he said, there's only one person in his locker room that has what it takes to shut him down. And he points at me. And I'm a freshman. I play one-on-one against this guy. He would beat my butt 10 straight times. But for that one moment, I believed I could shut him down, and I did, and we ended up winning by 2. That's what Barnes did. He could build you up or he could break you. He always tested your mental toughness to see how tough you were. In preseason, walking across campus, at practice. And he didn't treat, what we respected about Coach Barnes, he didn't treat the superstar like a superstar. The leading scorer, he expected them to do the same thing everybody else did. And we had a lot of respect for that. But I've seen him, get to the point where he would teach a lesson in the middle of practice and everybody would be like, what's he doing? He switched somebody off the first team. My sophomore year, we had somebody running first team as a freshman with us, and he was playing well. And in the middle of practice, he switched him to second team. And the second teamer came in and played lights out. The first teamer went on the second team with his head down, and he gave up. And Barnes came and brought us together and say, every single day, life's a test. It's how you handle tests in life that determines your outcomes. And that player sat the bench for the next several years because the other kid wouldn't give up his spot. So I knew going into my junior year, Barnes met with the team and he announced he was leaving. I think he spent 1 year at Alabama and 1 year with Wimp Sanders, and then 1 year at Ohio State with Gary Williams as an assistant. And when Barnes came in the team room to announce that he was leaving, we cried. We lost the heart and soul of our program, we thought, and that was tough. The only thing I regret is the year after my senior year is the year he came back as a head
right. I thought he was the head coach for a while because he coached Brian's senior year.
1 year. He came back 1 year, won 20 games, and then went to Providence after that.
That's right. Yeah.
But
you knew
it. You knew he was special.
You knew it. What about Joe Harrington? I mean, to me, I know Joe Harrington was a Maryland guy. I think he coached for Lefty, so he was kind of tied into that network and that pipeline of players probably as well. What kind of coach was he? What did you learn from Joe Harrington?
He was tough. He's tough. He was a game time coach. On the floor, he pushed you. Sometimes he would get on you where you have to make a decision. You go step up or step down. And him and I had a father-son relationship. He was hard on me. He was tough on me. And later on, he made me realize that he was tough on me because I could handle it. He would yell at other players, and he would yell at me about other players not doing their job. And I was always like, why are you getting on me? Why don't you yelling at them? But he made me realize that certain players couldn't get jumped on that way. They would fold up, and he needed them to be on the floor, and he would take it out on me. And luckily, I was able to handle it. I think my background helped me with that, and it made me tougher as a person. But Coach Harrington and I still stay in touch. Funny story, a couple of years ago, I was at John Haley High School as the principal in Winchester, and Coach called me up. He was coming back up to Northern Virginia to help take care of his daughter. She was a sophomore in high school, and he was coming up to take custody of her and have her finish up high school, but he needed a part-time job. So he called me up and asked me if I had any jobs for him, and we hired him as a sub at the high school. And him and I were walking the halls one day, and I was just laughing. I said, Coach, I said, isn't it funny how this is a full circle? I said, the student becomes the master. I said, now I'm the head coach. I'm in charge of this house right here. And what I tell you to do, you do it. So he called Coach Barnes up, and we started carrying on that he was back working for me. It was kind of neat, real special.
Was he influential in the way you coached? Did there things that you learned from him? I mean, obviously he was tough, and it sounds like him and Barnes are both tough. Were there things that they did that you adopted as a coach yourself?
Absolutely. I think between Coach Sudduth in high school, Coach Barnes and Coach Harrington in college, I think you learn a lot about what you will do as a coach and what you won't do as a coach, because nobody's perfect. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. And, a lot of things, I remember being pulled out of the game against Navy, and I go sit at the bench, and I sat right next to him, and he told me, move down to the very end. He goes, you're done. And I go to the end of the bench, and he comes down there, and he just lets me have it. Rips me. I started to come out of my chair. I was so hot, and my teammates grabbed me. And I finally said, Coach, I said, put me back in, and I'll show you. Go ahead, get back in. He put me right back in. And I went in there, and I had a heck of a second half, and, we won the game. And then I was like, that's the way you do it. When you have a player that challenges you back in the right way, do it. And I've done that a couple times in my career, where a player would tell me, Coach, let me go get number 30. I'll shut him down. Go ahead. Let's see what you got. So things like that. The mental toughness, the mental game, a lot from Coach Barnes. The character piece, a lot from Coach Sudduth. I still have former players today that we're friends on Facebook that would send me messages, and we just laugh about bricks. One of the big things we did at George Mason for defense, we all had our own set of bricks. The bricks were taped up with athletic tape. At the ends, you had your jersey number. And every single day at practice, you had to take your bricks out of your locker, line them up on the baseline against the wall in order. And every time we did defensive slides, we had to do the bricks, because the thing was discipline, mindset, and playing without reaching forward. So we had to hold the bricks out. Well, in coaching, I did the same thing. And of course, my players thought I was crazy. To this day, I have former players who are coaching their own kids in leagues or whatever, and they say, Coach, I still use those bricks on my kid. That's kind of neat,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think you learn a lot from good people, and I was blessed because I had 3 good people.
Yeah. Well, so your first year at George Mason, you guys, I think, almost go undefeated outside the conference. You're 500 in the conference. So it's one of Richmond had Johnny Newman and had a good team. There's some other. I think Madison may have been tough that year as well. But you had 2 of my favorite players in George Mason history, other than you, of course. You had Carlos Yates, and you had John Niehoff. So I grew up watching John Niehoff play at Lee, and I loved the way he played. And he was just a guy. I don't even think he had a scholarship. I think he walked on and from the moment he got there, he just, let them know that he meant business. He's just a great player, a leader, clutch shooter, all those things. And then Carlos Yates was just an amazing shooter. He was such a performer. He had such a star. It's such a star about him, and he gave that to George Mason as a program. So, what about your first year? What do you have? What do you remember about your first year and those two players?
Great characters, great leaders. I think we went 21-7, something like that, my freshman year. Every year we were right on the bubble of maybe getting an invite to a postseason tournament, which was good and bad because we could never have spring break because the announcement was always around spring break. So they made us stay on campus instead of going to beach week. But my freshman year, I was blessed to have great leaders like Carlos and John Niehoff. John Niehoff was the point guard. He was the John Stockton of our team and our league. He was just solid, did his job offensively and defensively, put us in position to where we could win. A lot of respect for John. I mean, John told me to do something, I did it. I remember one game we were playing and we were down and Carlos wanted the ball so bad. He told me because I was the one that took the ball out of bounds, and he told me to give him the ball. I made a mistake and I passed him the ball. John Niehoff come up and got in my face and said, "Mike, I'm the point guard. You give the ball to me." I said, "Yes, yes, sir." So John, John was just a strong leader, the John Stockton of our team. Los was the scorer, man. He was a character. He could fill it up. I'm telling you, he reminded me so much of Adrian Dantley, that mid-range game. Anything between 10, 15, 17 feet was money. And he had a shot behind his head that you just couldn't block. And I played quite a bit my freshman year, and I always thought it was because I was good. Well, coaches told me later on the reason why I played so much was I was the only one who was disciplined enough to take the ball out of bounds, give the ball to John Niehoff, run hard to the left block, set a down screen for Carlos, so Carlos could come to the elbow to shoot it. And my job was to rebound, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's why I played my freshman year.
Yeah.
But I remember at William & Mary, we were playing, and Carlos got hit in the head pretty hard. And we just kept on playing, and second half, Carlos went lights out. I mean, I think he had 27, 28 points or something like that. But second half, he kept on coming up to me in the middle of the game. He goes, "Mike, I can't see. What's the score? You got to tell me the score at the time, Mike. I don't know. I can't see straight." Well, come to find out, he had a concussion at the end of the game. But he was in a zone. He with a concussion. He was lights out.
Wow.
He was filling it up. It's a shame that it's a shame he passed away. But I could not have walked into my freshman year with anybody better than Carlos and John Niehoff as my role models, my leaders, people that I looked up to and respected.
Mm-hmm. So the next your sophomore and junior years, you guys were in third place, always behind Richmond and James Madison. You guys played them tough, but they just seemed to have an advantage in those 2 years. And you had two players that I liked a lot also, Ricky Wilson and Rob Rose. What was it like playing with those guys?
Those two guys were, golly, when you talk about guys that are just committed, doing the season, out of the season, they were basketball players. They loved the game. They would work hard nonstop. When you hear that Mamba mentality with Kobe Bryant, how early he would come in to work out and after hours, that was Ricky and Rob. Ricky and Rob were like this. They were roommates throughout their college career, close as can be. And you look up to them. Ricky, going into my freshman year, the year before I got there, Rick was I think he was announced All-American or preseason All-American at the 2 spot. He was a great athlete, great scorer. when John left, we didn't have a solid point guard come in. So coach moved Rick over to the point guard position. And Rick couldn't handle the ball that well to play point. And he worked his butt off nonstop to become a point guard, and then really fine-tuned it down his career. And Rob was 6'6", very similar to Johnny Newman, the way he played. Scottie Pippen style player. Rob tried to dunk on you anytime he could, but he worked so hard, and I had so much respect for those two guys, looked up to them, and they both had a great career after Mason. I know Rob went over to Australia and had an incredible career.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and then I think he was a league MVP several times, and then Rick messed around and he was on the Nets for a little bit. He had a couple of 10-day contracts here and there. I think he still works for Nike, if I remember. But just great people.
How about Kenny Sanders? Kenny came in a little bit later in your career. He was a big scorer, and from the moment he got there, he scored a lot of points.
Kenny was tough. God, he was that just guy who you wanted to play with him, not against him. He was just, for his size, he rebounded like crazy. He wanted that ball. And a lot of times his scoring wasn't just from shooting the ball. His scoring was going to get after the ball. And, he really helped, when Carlos and Rick and Rob and everybody graduated, Kenny kept the tradition going for sure.
Yeah. So one of my favorite players, you played against some great players in the Colonial. I guess it was the ECAC South, and then in '85 it became the Colonial. Obviously we talked about David Robinson, and I'm sure we all saw his development. One of my favorite players in the Colonial, and we were there. I was there at all your games until I went to school. Was a guy from Richmond named Pete Wolfick, because Pete was from Jefferson Huguenot with my roommate from college. Went to school with him, and I saw him play at the state tournament against Frankie Smith and Brian. Actually, they never did get a chance to play against him, but they were in the same Final Four. But I love watching Pete, and then later on he was involved in some of the big upsets Richmond was able to pull off in the NCAA tournament. What was it like playing against Peter Wolfick?
He was a great position player. He knew how to use that body. Once he got that position, you weren't getting around him. But once again, it just play hard, and after the game, shake your hand with
nice guy.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
That back then, Mason, Madison, Richmond, William and Mary, 4 in-state colleges, universities, going at it. Good players, good programs, good universities. You always beat each other up. It seemed like we always split with everybody, and then come tournament time, there was never a clear favorite, until David Robinson became the Admiral, but it was a great league back then, competing against them. You had to bring it every night. There was no games on our schedule. You just checked off saying, hey, that's 2 wins right there.
Yeah. So I think you played your whole career in the PE building, right? They didn't build the Patriot Center after you left, or did you get a year at the Patriot Center?
Half and half. First 2 years at the PE building, and then in my junior years when we opened up the Patriot Center, we actually opened up the Patriot Center against Georgetown and Maryland. Lenny Bias's senior year. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So, I thought, from my perspective, the games are much more exciting at the PE building. You had good crowds, especially when you played James Madison, Richmond, the teams that you were talking about earlier. I thought when you went to the Patriot Center, it was hard at the time. Mason was still a emerging program, an emerging school. It was hard to fill it up. It just didn't seem as exciting. What was your perspective on that?
Yeah, the PE building was just a big high school gym, and we had the campus radicals, so all the students came and dressed up and had a great time, and standing room only. I don't care what size your facility is, but when it's a packed house, it builds up the excitement, the enthusiasm. So the PE building was a little bit of home, I think a little home court advantage for us, for sure. Mm-hmm. When we opened up the the Patriot Center, even when we played Maryland and Georgetown, packed house, but it just wasn't the same excitement, enthusiasm. And back then, Mason was such a big commuter college, university. So a lot of people commute. So come weekends, a lot of people went home. So we didn't have a lot of people. I think at the time, we only had 2 high-rise dorms on campus. I think we only had 1,500 students on campus at the time. I think now they're pushing 10,000 on campus. So we didn't, a lot of the students didn't come to the games like, I guess early when they first opened.
So I know you met Holly at George Mason. What was the campus life like then? Because obviously, I mean, it's a massive school now, and at the time, as you said, it was commuter school. Did you have a good? Did you enjoy the campus life there?
Oh, absolutely. If I could ever go back in time, I'd go back to college in a heartbeat. Very lucky to be there back in those years. Every sport was very successful back then. I know the baseball team went to the World Series. Men and women's volleyball was ranked. I believe the men played UCLA at the Patriot Center, when they were ranked. Women and men's soccer was ranked. Women's soccer won the national championship against Mia Hamm, and you knocked off UNC's big streak. So every track and field was, we had Rob's from
Museo, Rob Museo.
Yeah, Rob, Olympian and all that stuff. It was just a great time to be a Patriot. Everybody, every program was doing well. The school was building like crazy. And even though we didn't have football, I missed that we didn't have college football. But then again, men's basketball was the top sport that people came to see, and that was kind of cool. Put it out there, and I had a great time at Mason. It was family, and I still contact people. I had when I was a principal at John Handley High School, I had a wrestler and a track athlete, both very interested in going to George Mason. Both situations, the wrestler, they wanted him as a wrestler, but academically he was on the border. I called the Dean of Admissions office and talked to him, introduced myself and told him who I was, and I went to Mason. I said, look, I don't make this call unless I believe in somebody. I said, and I told him what kind of person they would get if they offered him, admissions. And they said, Mr. Dufrene goes, we've never had a principal call us. We've had counselors call us and all that stuff, but we never had a high school principal. And because of your background, he will get a letter from us next week. So
that's great.
And then the girl for track and field, she got accepted at Mason. She really exploded her senior year in track and field, and she wanted to go out and make the track team. And it was late in the year and so forth. I got the number of the track coach, and within an hour, the head track coach sent me an email. The assistant coach gave me a personal phone call to talk to me. And she's there now, and I think they won the conference a year ago or something like that in track and field. And that was special. That made me feel good about, George Mason, how they would take my call and handle situations like that. That was neat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Coach, tell us a little bit about how you got into an education and how you got into coaching. So your college career is very successful. You guys had, you had some good runs. You played against some great competition. Had some awesome teammates. Your senior year, I think you almost got to double figures. So you did. I'm sure you were very ambitious and wanted to do even more, play more. But you had a really good career. So how'd you get to the next step?
Well, my last year playing at Mason. Before that, I was business major, and Mason's business school, top in the country, and you have to have a certain GPA to apply just to get into business school. And I wasn't quite there yet. And I'm like, it's going to be hard for me to balance basketball and my academics to that point. So I said, I better have a backup plan. So then I started looking at education, because in the summer times I would always work basketball camps, and I would always have such a great time working with younger kids. And when a little kid comes up to you at the end of the week and asks you to autograph their T-shirt, that's pretty special. So I knew I had a gift working with kids, and I said, you know what, let me go into education. So I changed my major. My senior year, after I finished playing, I had a couple small offers to go overseas and play, and I contacted Coach Barnes, and I told him my dilemma. What should I do? Because I wasn't finished at Mason, because changing my major, I had one more year to go. And he gave me advice. He never told me what to do, but he gave me advice, things to think about. And he said, Mike, he goes, you go overseas and play, you might play for 3 to 5 years. Have fun, great career. He goes, but then you come back to the States, what do you have? You don't have a college degree. So you're going to tell me 5 years down the road, after being out of college, you're going to come back to school? He goes, think about that. Thought about it and made sense. Mason wanted me to graduate from there. They offered me, if I stayed, I got a 5th year paid for if I stayed.
Awesome.
So I thought that was a smart choice, because like I said, I didn't have the funds. My mom didn't have the funds to put me through school. So I decided to stay. So I knew I was going to graduate with an education degree. I wanted to get into high school coaching. So I did my student teaching at Lake Braddock High School. And I just happened to be assigned to Coach Mike Wells. And Mike talked to me about being an assistant coach with him. That was Hubert Davis's senior year. Marcus Crockett, Jason, all that. Great team. So I got to be assistant coach that year. First day of student teaching, I walked in. Coach Wells threw me his grade book and said, you got it. I'm going to be in my office watching films. So I had an opportunity to help them out and be part of a great team. Learn a lot from Coach Wells, the way to handle things, especially off the court with, some administration stuff with parent issues and stuff like that. And once I finished my student teaching, Coach Wells was leaving. I think he was going back to his high school, Edison High School at the time. And he asked me if I would come with him. And then Coach Will Robinson was at Woodbridge, and he was the girls' assistant with Coach Lewis at George Mason when I was there. So I got to know those two guys pretty well. And Coach Robinson asked me if I would come out to Woodbridge with him as an assistant. But both schools didn't have any full-time teaching jobs open. They had a teacher assistant position, which, paid, I think, $12,000 maybe at the time. Well, anyway, I was working summer camp. Coach Barnes left, after his first year as the head coach there, and Coach Ernie Nestor came in. And they asked me if I would work Mason summer camps. I was in the field house working camps, and at the end of camp one day, Coach Nestor came up to me, and he never coached me. Only relationship I had was when he came in, I met him as our George Mason's new head coach. He asked me what my plans were. He goes, you're pretty good at this. He goes, I'll watch you working with the kids, and you're pretty good at this. He goes, where are you going? And I told him about my 2 offers, and his college roommate was a superintendent down in Campbell County, Lynchburg, Virginia area. And he said, would you be interested in going to Lynchburg? Coach, where is it? I don't know where is Lynchburg. And he told me where. He goes, I'd be willing to meet anybody. So he called up his buddy. The superintendent called me up, invited me to come down to meet with him and the principal and so forth. I drove down, met with them at Brookville High School, which is in Campbell County, right outside the city of Lynchburg. Met with them. They offered me a teaching job and a coaching job as assistant varsity coach. And best thing I ever did. Out of college, leaving all my college buddies behind that first year, made me grow up and get focused on my career early. Basketball was not big in Campbell County. It was mainly football and baseball and wrestling. After 2 years under the head coach, I looked at some offers back in Prince William. I told my principal I was going back to Northern Virginia. The superintendent came to get me the next day out of class and offered me the head boys job on the varsity level. I was 23 years old, and I knew I wouldn't get that opportunity in Northern Virginia as a head coach so early in my career. So I took it right away. I was very blessed. I had was able to build a strong program in no time. And then after my third year of the head coaching position, EC Glass in the city of Lynchburg called me up and said, we have an opening, we'd like to meet with you. And as you know, going from double A, EC Glass was AAA at the time, city school. I thought for my career, that'd be a good move for me. So I go to EC Glass and get there, and we got some good athletes, and we have to build a program. Football is everything at EC Glass at the time with great Bo Henson, and I was able to get them going. And we had a slow start because I had to break some bad habits they had, and all of a sudden we got it going, and we made a heck of a run back then. What was it, 95, I believe, something like that?
95, yeah.
95, and it was fun. We went undefeated at home, which was pretty cool because we had, I don't know if you ever been in the old EC Glass gym, but we had bleachers on all four sides. So the student body would fill the baseline up. And whatever side the opponent was shooting free throws, they would move to that baseline each half, and they would have pots and pans and all that stuff. And, GW Danville's in our league, and the great GW Danville teams back in the day. So we got on a roll. We started winning, strong second half of the season. We go down to GW because they're the number 1 seed. We're number 2 going into the tournament. And 2 minutes to go. It's a pack. I don't know if you've been to GW, but GW is a cracker box. I mean, it might be 5 rows of bleachers. They put portable bleachers on the baseline. It's only like 5 feet wide. They put the football players on the baseline, so they yelling at you while you're taking the ball out of bounds. So it's a packed house, and 2 minutes to go, we got it. We got the game in hand. In the middle of the game, the athletic director comes behind the bench and whispers in my ear, because at that time, after the championship game, you present the trophy, the medals, you cut down the nets and all that stuff. So he came up to me and said, "Mike, do you really want to cut down the nets after the game?" I said, "Just get us to our locker room and get us through the bus as soon as possible." So as soon as the game was over, we celebrated, went to the locker room and left. And then we got into the tournament, the regional tournament. We're lucky with our seed. We got to host, which in our region, the northern region, hosting is big because you could be all over the place. We got to host William Fleming was a great team. Derek Hines was a heck of a player. They had a 6'7", 6'8" front court. We got going, and we were up by 25 on it. Unbelievable run. And then, that was Garfield came down first, and Andy Gray's team. And when they pulled in with rental cars. They had rental cars loaded up with luggage because they were going from Lynchburg to Roanoke to play William Fleming the next round. And Coach Gray's from William Fleming. He went to school there. So when I found that out, of course, I told my team before the game that, there's no sense playing this game. It's over with. They're going to Roanoke after they beat us tonight. So anyway, we got a great game going on with Garfield. Andre Kendrick, my point guard, he played football at Virginia Tech. He was a running back. Short guy, but tough as nails. He gets fouled late in the game, and we're down 2. And I'm trying to get my guards on the free throw line and my big guy's back, because if he misses it, I wanted to trap with my quickness and go for a steal, because that's the only chance we have is a couple seconds left. Well, he makes the first one. Now we're down by 1. He misses in the confusion. The referee handed him the ball in the second one. So we have nobody on the line. He has to make this free throw, but it's in overtime. If he misses it, the game's over. We have nobody on the line. Andre shoots the ball, and right away on his release, he knew he missed the short right. He chases the ball down the lane, jumps out of bounds, throws the ball off of Garfield's leg, and his ball out of bounds underneath. We run the play, got my big guy, Jamar, with the ball. He hits a hook shot off the glass at the buzzer, but we win. A great game.
Wow.
Great game.
Yeah.
But that game only set us up to come to Potomac for the championship. So we travel up to Potomac against Coach Hayes and Roland Roberts, Mookie Felder, a great team. And we didn't get off the bus that first half. They put it to us. My big kid was about 6'4", hard worker, strong kid. Roland caught the ball in the block, first possession, turns baseline, bumps him into the lip, dunks it on him. He comes to the bench, his lips bleeding. I looked at my assistant coach and I said, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. But we played a great second half, but we were down. I think we were down first half by 19, and, Potomac was pretty darn good. But we made it to the state playoffs. First time in EC Glass, 25-year. We haven't been back in 25 years, which was kind of neat because with the tradition and history of EC Glass, all the old timers came to school, visit us at practice, wished us luck. So that brought a lot of excitement to the program, to the community, which is always a great thing about high school sports. So
it was more of a football. EC Glass was more of a football school, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my father's from Bedford, and I'm familiar with the area. I got relatives in Farmville, Cumberland, all over that area. But one thing I've always been amazed by is how high the level of basketball is in that area. You go to Danville, you go to Martinsville, you go to Roanoke, Lynchburg, you go to Pulaski, you go to Christiansburg. There's so much good basketball in that part of the country. Why do you think that is?
That Roanoke area is just sports heaven. I don't know if they still do, but at one time they used to host the Division III championship in basketball, football, and baseball. All three there. When I was down there, I always went to the Final Four at the Civic Center for D3 championship, and that's when because up in Northern Virginia, I was never exposed to Division III basketball. Didn't have much. I watched so much Division III. I was like, what's the difference in Division III and Division I? 2 inches, Yeah. 6'6", I'm playing Division III. 6'8", I'm playing Division I. And I gained a lot of respect for that level because that area, the ODAC area, has a lot of great Division III schools. And I just think their communities get behind them. Golly, there's nothing like a Friday night football game. You talk about Martinsburg football, basketball, Husky Hall, Martinsville. I mean, there's a legend right there. So it's a lot of history, and I think the community was the big thing. The community got behind their programs.
Yeah. So, I had not seen Holly since high school. This is before Facebook. So you guys get to the state tournament, and there are 2 big games I could choose from. There's the game of the century, which is Potomac versus TC Williams. Potomac is, one of the best teams in the history of the DC area. I mean, at least at the time, it was thought this team was that good. TC had maybe one of the best backcourts in the history of the state with 2 major Division I prospects, Michael Horton and Damon Jackson. And so there was that game at Potomac. And then you were playing my alma mater, Robinson. So Glass is coming up to play Robinson. So obviously I chose to go to the Robinson game. And plus, you would have had to get to the other game an hour and a half before the game to even get in. So I'm sitting up there. I think the game was at Hayfield when
Yep.
you guys played Robinson. I look forward. I said, I swear that's Holly Shaner right behind the behind your bench or somewhere. I'm like, that's got to be Holly. So I went and said hi to her, and that's when I reconnected and I put two and two together. And I don't think I got a chance to say hi to you after that game, but that was a heck of a game. You guys could have won that. Robinson had Addis Bennett, Willie Callahan, two great players, solid players. They had some role players, Mike Kolakowski, Corey Mickelberry, I believe. I'm missing one more player, Josh Schmeisen, I think. They had a real solid team. They had upset TC in the regional final. That's why you were playing them. But anyway, talk about that game a little bit, because you guys had your chances to win that game.
Golly, you're gonna get me sad again. That one, so much excitement coming back to Northern Virginia, especially, with our families. Holly and her family was there. And, we did a great job scouting Robinson. I thought we had a perfect game plan the first half. I think we were about 14. Played a super first half. And the downfall of that game was at halftime. The announcer said the coach is married to a Robinson grad, Holly Shaner.
Maybe that's how I knew.
He announced it. I was like, really? He's going to say that? So anyway, the second half, and of course, Coach Thompson, I've known him because he coached Johnny Niehoff, and I knew him for years. He made some adjustments, and they came at us like every good team would, made a run, because Andre Kendrick was on. They couldn't stop him. They could not stop him. He was so shifty and stuff. And he picked up a couple of questionable calls down late. His fifth foul was unbelievable. It was a clear block. They called him for a charge. So he's out of the game last 2 minutes, and he's a key part of our program, our team. And Robinson came and took the lead. I think we went into overtime. Did we go to overtime that game?
I think so. I think so.
So we're in overtime without Kendrick, and we're back and forth, and we got fouled with 7 seconds. I remember this like yesterday, Julian. 7 seconds to go. We're down 2, and no, we're down 1. We're down 1. My best player gets fouled. My best free throw shooter gets fouled. Coach Thompson calls a timeout, of course. I don't say anything to the shooter. I'd say to the team, I say, okay, after he makes both of these, this is what we're going to do. No fouls. We're up by 1, all this stuff. So we go out of timeout, and I said to myself, please don't be short. Just don't be short. Use your legs. His legs lock on him. His heels never come off the ground. He hits the front of the rim. We get the rebound. We get the rebound at the elbow. Wide open shot. Shoot it. It rims in and out. Game over. Game over. So it's a tough loss. We're in the locker room. You do what you do as a coach to get your kids' heads up. Well, I'm always the last one out of the locker room. I always make sure all the trash is cleaned up and nothing's messed up. So I'm walking around the locker room, and I had one player, one senior, George Bunch. He went to play and had a heck of a career at Mary Washington. He's still sitting on the bench, fully dressed in his game uniform. Hey, George, we gotta go. Everybody's out there. But the bus is getting ready to pull out. We gotta go. Coach, I can't. George, we gotta go. Coach, I can't. I said, what's wrong? Coach, when I take this uniform off, it's for the last time.
Wow.
I sat down next to him, and we're both just crying like babies. You're right, George, and you're right. So it was emotional, tough loss, great journey for the Hilltoppers. Coach Thompson, he actually wrote me a letter after that game and congratulated me on a good year and everything. And he also told me strategy-wise what he did the second half to turn the game around. And basically what he did with his tough guards, he didn't run an offense. He said, just drive it at him. Just drive it to the paint. And he knew in high school ball, you drive to the paint every third time, there's going to be a foul. Somebody's going to be a foul call. And he shortened the game. He stopped the clock. He knew he couldn't get up and down with us. He shortened the game, got the clock to stop, hit free throws, and inched his way back in until he had a chance down the stretch.
Well, Coach, I always thought you did a really good job with your team. Even we'll get to Osbourn later on. Even when you were at Osbourn, you didn't have anywhere near the talent when I had you that Potomac and Woodbridge had at the time. What made you a good coach? You obviously did a great job with kids. What do you think it is?
I think my passion, my desire to. I never got caught up to see how many titles I could win or how many victories I could have at the end of my career. I always mark down a victory as your success on and off the court, not just winning a game. And I always took a lot of pride in teaching our kids how to be better people off the court, how to give back to the community. We did a lot of programs. When I was in Lynchburg, we did Project Double Team, where we brought at-risk kids in on Saturday mornings. And after an hour of practice, the second hour, we would do games with the kids from the community. We had McDonald's sponsors, and we had lunch with the kids. And I always try to get my kids to give back to the community, give back to the game that's been so good to me. I just love to compete. I love to take the underdog. And, some of my best memories of coaching is the team that overachieved. When you have a good team, it's tough, but at the end of the day, talent's going to override a lot of things. But when you don't have that talent, you really have to coach harder and get them to hang in there, because kids they quit and give up so easily. So some of my best memories are the teams that, we might have lost 17, 18 games, but we got better as the year went on.
Do you think you and Holly would have been happy if you guys would have stayed in Lynchburg, raised your family there, maybe got into administration there or whatever? You think you would have been happy there? I know obviously you ended up coming back home and taking Coach Sudduth's job at Osbourn.
At the time, we just finished 10 years. I was at Brookville for 5 years, EC Glass for 5 years. At the time, we were happy. We had our 2 kids. Holly got to stay home with the kids growing up. Coach Sudduth gave me a call one night out of the blue and said, "Mike, I'm getting ready to retire from coaching. Are you interested in coming back to Osbourn to replace me?" And Coach, out of respect, I will come up, I will meet with administration, talk to them about the program, and see where we are. So I came up and met with everybody and went back and talked to Holly. And it was a tough decision because we love Lynchburg so much. But kids are growing up, more opportunities in Northern Virginia in a lot of things. And both of our families from Northern Virginia. So we get closer to home. So we decided that was a good move to come back to Northern Virginia. I was blessed because I got to go back to my old high school. Holly got to be closer to her family, and her mom fell ill, and I couldn't imagine us being in Lynchburg going through what we went through when her mom got ill and passed away. So it was the right thing to do. It was a tough decision. Every move's tough because you got to say goodbye and move on, but it was good time. The timing was right.
So Osbourn becomes a AAA program, and I mean you're in a tough district. You got Potomac with Kendall Hayes, and I mean they probably had 15 to 20 Division I players in like a 15-year span. Unbelievable. Some of those were before you got there, but I mean you faced some of them when you were at EC Glass. You got Woodbridge with Will Robinson, and he's had some great teams as well. Andy Gray, Garfield's got some good teams as well. Hilton is built. Hilton, I mean, it's a big school as well. So you're going to have some great players at Hilton, Forest Park. It was a tough place to coach, and you had success. Did you enjoy that challenge of stepping up in class and going against so many great teams?
When I came to Osbourn, I think they just turned AAA maybe 2 or 3 years before I got there. And in all sports, they struggled. You know, that jump from double to AAA was very tough. Early in my career, we just wanted to be competitive. You know, we knew we couldn't play for 32 minutes with Woodbridge, Garfield, Potomac. We just wanted to compete. And then once we started competing, then we started to believe that we had a chance to win. And luckily, you know, later in my career at Osbourn, we had the talent to do so. We had the players early to compete. We didn't have the players to win. And then the second part of my, you know, down stretch there, my last 4 years or so, we had the talent to win.
Yeah. So Coach, I know I want to get to your administration, but I know you had one really special player that you've talked about in the group. I think he might have even played pro football. Who is that guy? I should know his name by now, but I can't remember him. But you say he's one of the toughest kids you ever coached.
Lucky Whitehead.
Yeah.
Lucky Whitehead. Yep. He's you know, this is I know they don't have a stat on this, but I would challenge this stat against anybody. Lucky was a football player. Of course, he's up in the CFL right now playing. They're having a great career. He's with the BC Lions. He was with Dallas, the Jets, and then went up to the CFL. Lucky was a pure football player, but Lucky was a winner. It didn't matter if you're playing Scrabble, you know, he's gonna win. We were playing his senior year. We were playing at Osbourn Park, and it was all ball, baseline to baseline. We have, I think, 4 seconds to go, down by 2. And we set up this play where Lucky set this back screen on this kid, and we're going to throw the ball over top so he catches the ball. Our shooter catches the ball on the dead run. I told him you have time for 3 dribbles, let it fly. Well, the defense jumped it, and Lucky was the open player. And Lucky's our 5th option, okay? Lucky catches the ball pretty much one full step over half court, catches it, turns, fires it, nothing but net. Nothing but net. He comes up to me after the game and says, "Coach," he goes, "you know, I hit 2 of those before I left the school today." He always 4 shots before he left. Anyway, we get on that run at Osbourn. We have, you know, Lucky was a sophomore when we had this freshman class. My son's freshman class came in, and we knew we had some talent. We really did. My assistant coaches and I said, "You know what? No more of this ball control stuff. We're going to get up and down the floor with these kids." We started 5 freshmen that year. And I told
On varsity?
On varsity. We used to laugh. Julian, we laughed every time they did the start lineup. At freshmen starting, everybody was a freshman. We laughed. And I told the kids, I said, we're going to take our lumps early. But if we stay with it, watch what happens throughout your journey. We went 500 their freshman year.
Wow, that's great.
The next 3 years, we win the district championship. And their junior and senior year, we make it to the region finals and we play in the state playoffs. I think we were 24-3 or 24-4 back-to-back years. But anyway,
that's amazing.
Going back to Lucky, he was the kid during every single game. You know, you put him on the best offensive player, shut him down. After every game, he would run to the score table and grab our scorebook to see how many points that player had. Not him, how many points that player had. His senior year, he's voted on first team, all district team, first teamer averaging 4.5 points a game.
Wow.
You name a player that got voted on first team averaging 4.5 points in basketball. That's the respect everybody had for the kid.
Wow.
That's the way he played the game of basketball. He was that special.
Well, Coach, so next you get into administration, and I know it's a tough decision to make for coaches because you have to provide for your family, and as Coach McKegg says, with retirement looming, if you can make more money in administration, it's hard to really turn it down at some point. But anyway, so eventually you get in administration, you go to Handley, you end up in Hampshire and Romney, West Virginia. What are some of the things, how is coaching like being an administrator? I mean, I'm sure a lot of it's the same thing. You try to energize people. You try to have a vision for what you want to do. You try to have something that has a school to have a personality like your teams have a personality. How would you equate being an administrator to being a coach? And have you enjoyed that work as well?
Well, first of all, the reason why I got into administration is because my son, the best part of my career, I got to coach my son for 3 years in high school. The greatest time I had. My son, as soon as he finished his senior year playing for me, I announced my retirement from coaching, and everybody's looking at me like, what's wrong? What happened? Well, my daughter was 2 years behind him, and I was missing half her season because of conflicts. And I'm like, I've sacrificed enough for my family over the years. I'm going to watch my daughter play. So I decided to retire from coaching. And I said, well, if I'm not going to coach, what am I going to do? And a good friend of mine who's a superintendent in Virginia, he was a head football coach down in Brookville when I was down there with him. And he left coaching early to get in administration. And him and I got in a big fight. And he said, Mike, what we do in coaching, you could do in administration at a larger scale, not just for your team. I didn't believe that at the time, but I watched him do it. So he gave me confidence. You can. You're not always dealing with all the negative things. You can have an impact on your entire school community if you do it the right way. So as soon as I retired, I went after I didn't get my master's in administration until I retired from coaching. I didn't get it early like a lot of people. So once I did, they asked me to be the principal of the freshman class at Osbourn, which was 630 freshmen. And
that's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and 18% of the freshmen were failing their freshman year. And within 2 years, we got that down to 5.5% failure rate. Hey, I'm pretty good at this. I could do this. So then I started really saying, you know what? I want to do it for the entire school. And that's when I started to go after a principalship. And I was very, very blessed to get my first job at Handley High School. As you know, one of the most beautiful schools in the country.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and a lot of tradition, a lot of history there, and went there for 5 years. Then I decided, with the way the VRS retirement system is, it's financially smart for me to retire from Virginia. Went to Hampshire County, West Virginia, for 1 year. And why am I down in Edenton, North Carolina? Is because of your classmate Holly Dufrene. She said
it's my fault.
Yeah. She said at Easter time, she said, Mike, she said, for 33 years, I followed your career, coaching and administration. She goes, now it's my time. Yeah. Well, Julie, I have an answer for everything. I didn't have an answer for that one, but yeah, you're right. Where you want to go? Yeah. I want to be close to the kids. So then we started looking at places and came down here. But when I started coaching and teaching in Lynchburg area, that area, Roanoke, Lynchburg area, they really believe the best administrators are coaches. They groomed a lot of 7 people I started my career with down in Lynchburg are now principals or superintendents in schools. They kind of groom you. They believe a good coach makes a good administrator. And now that I'm in administration, we deal with the same thing. We know how to problem solve. We know how to stay calm under pressure. We know how to deal with kids and with families make tough decisions. So coaching gave me a lot of that skills that I needed to be a successful administrator.
I mean, so many business leaders quote John Wooden's book. I mean, it pretty much says it all right there. Well, Coach, I wanted to end with this. So you moved to Romney, West Virginia, and Romney is my hometown of the guy who coached at Robinson when I got there, Roscoe Dean. And, I've talked to a lot of basketball folks, as you know, since we started with Nova Legends, and so many of them are from West Virginia. It's a basketball crazy state. What do you like about the West Virginia basketball scene? What do they do better than us, and what do we do better than them?
One thing I really liked this past year, our boys and girls teams both made the state playoffs. And that was the first time in the history of the school the boys made it. So, of course, there was a lot of excitement in the community. One thing I like come playoff time, it's made for the underdog to have a chance. It's like watching the old Hoosiers movie, everybody has a chance to win. Everybody has a chance to get in the playoffs and win. And our boys team was a perfect example by it, because with our record and everything, and the coaches, this what really was weird to me. The coaches vote on the seeding of the tournament. You can't vote for your own team, but 1 through 8, coaches vote who should be seeded.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which I don't know how well that would go in Northern Virginia. Everybody be, playing around trying to figure out what's the best road for them. But anyway, we're the 8. We got voted, which was right. We got voted number 8 seed, and we had to play the number 1 seed, and we upset them. First time, I think, in the history of the tournament that number 8 beat a number 1. So it gives everybody a chance. So I kind of like that format where everybody's in. Everybody has a chance to go through I think they call it the sectionals, to go on to the next level. So I like that. I really do. Virginia, I don't know. They started, it's a shame the way they started to mess around with the classifications and the districts and everything. To me, it took away a lot of those rivals.
Yeah.
Over the years, from what I've seen, and that's a shame, because as you know, the history of Northern Virginia, some of the rivals, golly, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Friday night, you're gonna be at that gym watching that game, just because it's just a great environment to be.
Yeah. It's too bad they did that, and hopefully by starting this group and talking to people, we'll inspire people to try to fix some of the changes they made, and try to kind of restore some of the excitement to the ball, because we still have a lot of great players and a lot of great coaches still doing this. But Coach, I want to tell you that, and also about West Virginia real fast, you got to have a good West basketball environment if the governor of the state can coach a girls varsity team. I mean, obviously you guys have your priorities in the right place. But anyway, Coach, I just want to tell you that I follow you on Facebook. I thought in Hampshire too. I don't know how I got on that page. Well, you did a great job of inspiring people during the pandemic. It was very inspirational. So I can see where the coaching does come into play. And I followed your career. I was a fan of yours when you were at George Mason. I was a big George Mason basketball fan. And I always loved your work as a coach. Raised, like I said before, a beautiful family. So it's been good to get to know you a little bit on the Facebook group. I'm glad you participated, and I hope you guys have just a great time down in North Carolina, with new challenges.
Well, thank you. Northern Virginia, it has such great tradition and history with not just basketball, but a lot of sports. I see that it started a football page now. I really enjoy going to the Nova Legends, because it just brings back so many great memories, and a lot of things that we forgot about. It helps to remind us, that guy played there back in the day. And all those pictures of all those former players that are playing at the next level or coached at the next level, it's pretty neat to see. So thanks for doing that.
Sure.
Basketball has been a great journey for me, from a player to a coach to a father. We didn't talk much about my daughter, but my daughter got to play.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, good player.
in 4 years, she made 3 Sweet 16s and 1 Final Four. And
That's incredible. Much better than you, Coach.
oh, funny you should say that. The game they won to put them in the Final Four, after they did their team thing, I ran on the floor and she came running and jumped in my arms and gave me a hug. The very first thing she said to me, Julian, she goes, "Dad, you never made the Final Four, did you?" I said, so it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
You never got a bid.
Yeah.
You're like George Mason never got a bid.
Yeah. So that was fun to watch her, her journey.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a beautiful woman and a great athlete. That's the beauty of Facebook. You get to watch your friends' kids grow up, and I've admired them both from afar. Your son seemed like he was a great actor. He seemed like he had a lot of talent as well. So it's great that they were able to pursue those passions.
Yeah, my son was a 3-sport athlete in high school: football, basketball, lacrosse. And
Wow.
being a coach, I always thought he was going to college to play lacrosse. But his junior year, a friend of his talked him into auditioning for the school musical, and he gets the lead in a musical and falls in love with performing arts and goes to James Madison for musical theater, and now he's in Richmond doing his thing.
That's awesome.
It's funny how I think athletics had a lot to do with that. I really did.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, he likes the stage. I mean, that's what our stage was Tuesday and Friday nights, and now his stage is, in the theater.
Yeah, because as an administrator, I always talk to families and kids that are struggling, and a lot of times those kids are struggling. They don't participate in extracurricular activities, and I always tell them the biggest difference maker in high school is being part of something. If it's basketball, if it's band, if it's a club, it doesn't matter. But being part of a team opens up so many opportunities and teaches you a lot about yourself. And I'm a big, supporter of being involved with extracurriculars, because I would not be here talking to you today if it wasn't for high school sports and it wasn't because of special coaches in my life. Yeah,
it definitely me as well. So, well, Coach, I'm going to drop in on you guys and see you next year. So when I stop in, Holly's going to be like, we were just being polite when we invited you to come see us. So we're gonna pop in next year and see you guys.
You know what? That would be a thrill if you did that. We could do a live podcast. I hope to have a boat by then, so we'll go out for a little boat.
Well, that's awesome, Coach. Well, look, let's keep in touch, and hopefully you'll continue to contribute on the group, and one day we will get together in person.
Absolutely. Appreciate all you do. All the best to you and your family. You guys stay healthy, stay safe.
Okay. All right, Coach. And say goodbye to Holly for me.
Sure will. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, buddy. Thanks again.